This week, I asked our own Jen Akins to pound the table for a best ball stack this season. Jen, which stack you pounded the table for?
This week, I am pounding the table for the Detroit Lions stack. All of it. Give me all of them. Give me Amon-Ra in the second round. Give me David Montgomery in the 8th round. Give me Jared Goff in the 11th round. Give me Sam Laporta in the 14th. And you can even sprinkle in some Marvin Jones and or Josh Reynolds in the 18th. And not only can you get all those guys easily, but their week 17 correlation is Dallas, which is a fantastic, one of the good ones this year as far as correlating both teams. So throw in some Dallas guys in there with it, and you've got yourself a beautiful stack.
I love it. I love it. All right, go get you some Detroit Lions. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my phenomenal co-host, Jen Akins. Jen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm sorry. Apparently one of my neighbors decided to mow their lawn right now as I was doing the cold open there. But no, I'm good. I'm super stoked right now. To my right here, the Nuggets are playing for perhaps the sweep of the Lakers to go to the NBA Finals for the first time ever in franchise history. And I know that I don't know. I know you're not for it, but I think a lot of people out there are probably anti-Laker. Other than the NBA itself, I'm sure would rather have the Lakers than the Nuggets all day every day. But don't care, and Nuggets don't care either.
I have so much to say about this. I want to turn this episode into just discussing the NBA and its marketing and the port. I will say I don't really care the outcome of this game. So if Denver winning makes you happy, that sways me enough.
Okay, I like it. I've lived in Denver for 26 years now. There's a lot of very passionate Nuggets fans, and they've come close, and they just haven't gotten there. So hopefully this is the year. They're looking good. So we'll see.
And I do love me some Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is a lot of fun.
He's been on fire this series, which is fantastic as well.
Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. Today we're going to talk best ball, stacking and best ball specifically. We can probably talk a little bit about redraft and how stacking works. We see a question already from Travis Tarr. Travis, thank you very much for listening. We will get to that question very soon. But first, I kind of want to talk just some overall strategies, some best ball stacking strategy, what the benefits are, like does it work? Because it seems like a really popular strategy in general. So Jen, just kind of when you're looking at stacking, what benefits are you looking to gain from stacking? Why would you stack?
In best ball, you're stacking so that you can get those spike weeks, right? You want, if a team, for example, the Lions that I just talked about, they go off on a particular week and you have, 3 or 4 of pieces of that offense that score, 50 points on a team. It's likely that those players are going to go off for your roster as well. So, it's one of those things where it's a positive where you want that. And then it can also be a negative if you are, not paying attention to bye weeks and you stack and stack and stack and make this mega stack. And then all of a sudden, half your lineup has the same bye week. That may not be ideal. But I think overall stacking is, one of those things that can be beneficial to get those spike weeks that we all need in best ball to get us higher up the leaderboard.
So are we only looking to stack like high power offenses or some of those like secondary players in best ball that you'd grab? Like if you grab, we'll talk different teams specifically, but if you grab like Daniel Jones and the Giants aren't exactly a prolific offense, are you still going after stacking those secondary players, more than one stack on a roster?
Yeah, because those guys, whether they're a high powered offense or not, they all have good weeks. I mean, any given Sunday, right? That's the whole, the premise there. So yeah. I mean, I think, and also, the good thing about those stacks is they're a lot cheaper. You have certain people that were maybe relatively new to best ball, new to stacking, new to all of that, and they kind of go for, the high priced obvious stacks, and they're just forgetting about those backdoor stacks that are so easy to get later in the draft that can pay off when you're, down the stretch in weeks 14, 15, 16, and maybe you're in second place or third place in your little, 12 team division there. And you just want to climb up a little bit. You may have a random week, where Baker Mayfield throws 3 touchdowns to Kate Otten and you have them both at the bottom of your roster. And all of a sudden, you leapfrog the dude that has Josh Allen that maybe had a decent week, but not a fantastic week.
One of my favorite stacks there, Baker Mayfield and K. Dotton.
That's why I threw it out there.
That's a fun one. I enjoy that. Travis Tarr, as I mentioned, had a question in a redraft league. Wants to know if they're limiting themselves with weekly upside if they have a triple stack of Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. My initial thoughts on this are it's a little dicey in redraft to have that much exposure to one team. But if you're going to do it, the Bengals offense seems like a reasonable one to go after. Another one like Dolphins, Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. I'm not opposed to that type of a stack either. But what do you think, Jen, triple stacking in an offense that good?
Well, in best ball, which I know this question is not about, I'm all for it. I mean, it's tough to get all three of those players. You're spending a lot of money, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Not money, but draft capital. But in redraft, right? Yeah, that too. In redraft, though, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I would invest that much in one team in redraft. Maybe it depends on your actual, the roster requirements in your league. If you're only starting, some leagues only start 2 wide receivers. Like if those are your 2 main, I don't know that I would do that. You may kind of handicap yourself there by, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I usually don't stack that much in redraft as it is. I'll do maybe one, a QB with one of his weapons. But a 3, like you said, Brandon, if you're going to do it, that's an offense to do it. But just make sure if you do it, that you have your bye week covered there for that team. And you have enough depth that you can kind of maneuver your roster around.
I'm remembering those old Cincinnati Bengals stacks when you had Darnay Scott and Carl Pickens and Boomer Esiason and then later Jeff Blake. I remember those were fun Bengals stacks that you would go after in redraft league. But like you're talking about, you'd get one or the other. So instead of your upside having 2 receivers go off, usually it was one of the guys would go off and not the other one. So it is a little dicey in redraft, but you're right. I love the triple stack in best ball. I want to ask about more best ball strategy here. Should you reach to stack? So if you lock yourself into T. Higgins or Ja'Marr Chase early on, and Joe Burrow, who I think is going in the 6th round or 5th round right now, would you reach to make sure that you complete that stack, or are you still drafting on value?
He's actually in the 4th now, believe it or not.
He's in the 4th round.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I'm okay with reaching a little bit. Like I'm not going to reach 2 rounds. I'm okay with reaching, within a round, right? I'm okay with reaching 7, 8 picks, whatever, something like that. I think that's doable. It also kind of depends on where you are in the draft and who you're reaching for. But I'm not anti-reaching. I think if you're going to take like Kirk Cousins, like 3 rounds before you normally would just to pair him with, Jefferson, or I don't know that I would do that. But I think a mini reach, I think is okay.
I know last year you had to mini reach to get Russell Wilson, which obviously Russell Wilson didn't pan out. But I remember last year you talking about how you kept trying to complete a Denver stack, and it just wasn't working out.
I think that was the fantasy gods telling me to stay away from that entire stack because it absolutely sunk. So I had so much Russell Wilson. I mean, oof. Yeah, that was rough.
I had him in my home league. He was my main. I had Dak and Russ. So I had a rough start to the season last year.
Russell Wilson, I mean, the whole offense was, it was just a disaster, top to bottom, fantasy and real life. I mean, like I said, I live here in Denver and just watching that, it was so ugly. It was such a bad season.
Just brutal. Sean Payton coming over there. That's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So do you ever stack 3 on your roster, or are you stacking, or if you take 3 quarterbacks, is that something you're going after, or, do you try to make sure you've got 1 or 2 and then you're good?
I'll definitely, I mean, it depends. I'm not going to take like 3 stacks of 4 people, you know what I mean? But mini stacks, sure. I love stacking all kinds of things because you never know what's going to happen. And you have to kind of try out all kinds of different combinations. If you're doing one best ball draft for the entire season, maybe not take, but if you're going to do a bunch of different leagues and a bunch of different drafts, then you have to play around, and maybe take, like a full on, onslaught, say 5 players from one team and then, 3 from another, and maybe throw in 2 from, a random, like a running back 2 and wide receiver 3 combo with no quarterback and no tight end. You just kind of have to play around, but I always like to have a couple different stacks, at least two for sure, and then I try even to get like 3 or 4 depending on bye weeks and whatnot.
Excellent, excellent. And you kind of hinted at it there, but is it always a quarterback pass catcher stack? You talked about, a running back 2 and a wide receiver 3 stack. What's the benefit of doing, running back receiver instead of having a quarterback involved?
This is interesting. So TJ Hernandez wrote an article last season. He has not updated it this season, and I'm not sure if he's going to, but it's really good. It's on our website, and it is about stacking, and it's for the it was originally for the Underdog Best Ball Mania. And it was called Best Ball Mania Stacking Strategy. And he did a ton of research. And the interesting, he found that, so the most successful stack with quarterbacks that advanced last year in the Best Ball Mania was quarterback 1, running back 2, and wide receiver 4. So that was the combo that advanced the most. And their advance rate over expectation, so in 2021, was plus 11.47. I mean, that's a lot. That was the highest one in that category. And then he has about 10 different combinations listed there. But so that's interesting. And then the most successful non-quarterback stack that he found was RB2 and wide receiver 4 was the most advanced rate. And then the second one there, just to throw another one out there for you guys, was tight end 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 4. So, I mean, honestly, you can do anything, who knows what that would be. Oh, good. Sal put it there in the comments for anyone paying attention there and wants to look that up. But yeah, so there's a ton of different, combinations. The wide receiver 4 to me was kind of the most interesting and the most telling, because that was the one that kept showing up on all the advance rate. Oh, Brandon, that was you. I'm sorry. It was not Sal.
That's okay.
Got to give credit where it's due. It was Brandon.
Sal can have that credit. That's fine.
But yeah, so to me, that was kind of interesting. It stuck out there that, because a lot of people tend to like write off and poo-poo the wide receiver 4. Like, why are we? And like I said in my intro, in the Lions, I mean, give me Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds, because you never know. There's also, listen, it's the NFL. Guys get hurt, right? So teams can be down to their wide receiver 4 by week 9, and all of a sudden this dude's putting up, a couple touchdowns and whatnot. So to answer your roundabout question, yes, I like to stack non-quarterback.
No, that's great. That's great. And then finally, let's talk before we start talking specific teams and targets, which we're going to get into ad nauseum today. The week 17 correlation, that was what we talked about all offseason last year. It was something that I know Pat Carrain, with his $2 million winning lineup, he talked about, at extent last offseason. Turned out to be, I think, something that most people were happy they thought about going into the season. Do you subscribe to week 17 correlation? And can you kind of describe why and what it is?
Yeah, I do. I think that, like I was talking about earlier before, right? We're looking for those spike weeks, but specifically here, this is all for, I think in a normal, regular best ball league, I don't know if it's as necessary, right? But if you're in a tournament and you're trying to move on and leapfrog all these other teams, you're down to, when we get to week 17, if you're in the money, that can be a difference maker. When you have, it's a DFS strategy. When you have teams on, that are going against each other and they're both scoring, especially if they're, some of these week 17 correlations, you're looking for two bad teams that we have two bad defenses where all of a sudden you've got both teams scoring. For example, I'm looking right now, just real quick down here, there's a Houston, Tennessee matchup in week 17.
Could be interesting.
Both of those teams might end up going off and scoring a lot of points, and you may end up, outscoring the guy that say has, Josh, because listen, I know I'm going on all kinds of different tangents here, so bear with me, people.
These are great tangents, and they are salient.
Well, because it's like I have these things pop in my head. But so in week 17, think about all the teams that have advanced, right, from to week 15, week 16. Then you get to week 17. How many, whatever percentage of these teams are going to be Josh Allen teams and Patrick Mahomes teams and all these, you're going to have very similar lineups in these teams. But when you get there and you have, like I said, say a random stack with 4 Houston guys against 3 Tennessee guys, and that happens to be a high scoring game, you may, like I said, go above the teams that just have, Josh Allen and Diggs or so and so and so and so, and all these teams that are repeat. So I think that's why it can help, and it can also not. I mean, we spend a lot of time doing week 17 correlations, and sometimes these games are duds, and there's a high score of whatever 32 between both teams, and nothing really happens. But in the event it does, you're putting yourself in a good spot to advance or win.
Sure. Yeah. And, you kind of hinted at roster variation and having your construction be a little bit different from the field. And that's a big part of it. And it comes from the back end of your roster because those studs that work out are going to get you there, and the backups there might help you win it. So it makes perfect sense. I'm looking at you, Atlanta at Chicago, that
I mean,
Desmond Ritter and
exactly,
guys like
right?
that.
I know. I mean, it's like when you look at those games, it's like, okay, like I said earlier, the Dallas-Detroit game is an obvious one, just because, but like you said, you look at kind of the low key ones that might be like, like you said, Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Tennessee. I mean, Colts, Vegas. Like, who knows, what's going to happen there? But there's some interesting ones, and then there's also some gross ones, but those may pay off. You never know.
Yeah, Giants Rams. We'll talk about that later. That's an interesting but also looks gross kind of one. I'm curious. The one that stands out to me when I look at the Week 17 is Cincinnati at Kansas City.
Of course.
Can you even target that? Like, just from an ADP perspective?
Yeah, but you're probably getting the ancillary pieces at the end. You're getting like the Justin Watson and Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith, and you're not getting, I mean, you can target, but you're not going to get all of them. You can't get Chase and Higgins and Kelsey. I mean, it's physically impossible to target that. But it's interesting because last year one of the ones that we all targeted was the Denver KC, because we thought Denver was going to actually score more than like 19. But I think I don't even remember. They scored an average of like 11 points, I think. I mean, I just made that up, but it was bad. I mean, there were games where they were single digits. It was they couldn't score. I mean, they just could not score last year for So that was ugly for people. And I did a lot of that Denver KC Week 17 stack or correlation last year. It happens.
Which Kansas City receiver are you kind of I find myself drafting a lot of Sky Moore because he slipped so much. It's like that post hype thing. And any one of those guys could do something. So I don't know. I find myself with him a lot in best ball.
The answer for me is Jerick McKinnon.
Oh, I was talking receivers, but yeah, McKinnon. I
know you were, but that's still the answer for me.
Sure.
The answer for me is Jerick McKinnon. I just kind of skip the receiver room and I go straight to McKinnon.
Makes sense. I like that. I love me some McKinnon this year, and I've never been like one of the McKinnon stands. Like, I've always been pretty neutral on McKinnon, but I really like him this year at his cost and what his potential could be.
I went pretty heavy on him a couple years ago when he got hurt in, I believe it was San Francisco, but
when he was the big free agent acquisition for them.
But for now, I mean, we'll get to that, but he's an 11th rounder and he's beautiful. If you're gonna get Kelsey, you start out with Kelsey Mahomes and then grab him later. I mean, that's beautiful.
All right. So let's talk about really expensive stacks, and I want to find out if you're buying them right now. Okay. So we talked Bengals a little bit. You said you're kind of good targeting them, but yeah, you look at that. Let's say you could do Ja'Marr and Burrow. That's a 1st and 4th rounder right now. Is that something are you targeting Burrow in the 4th to complete that stack?
If I get Chase or Higgins and Burrow is in the right spot, I will do it. Yeah, I will. If it hasn't worked out a lot for me though, because it just kind of depends. But it's tough to get all 3. If you can, that's fantastic. But if I start out with Chase, and Chase is his ADP is like 2 right now, so it's pretty tough, to kind of do that. But sometimes I will even take Burrow without those first 2, and then go to Boyd in the 10th, go to Irv Smith in the 13th. And then, I'm not afraid for some Travion Williams in the 18th either.
I think it's valuable that you keep reminding me that you can stack these ancillary players and that it's just as, if not more effective, especially looking at the data that TJ came up. I need that, Jen.
That's why we're here today.
What about that Kelsey Mahomes stack? Is that something that's a 1st and a 2nd or 3rd?
1st and a 2nd.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to be in the right spot to do it. I've done it, but you have to be in the right spot. If it falls to me, like if I take Kelsey in the first and then it comes back around and Mahomes is there, I will absolutely grab it. But it doesn't happen that often. Usually someone will take Mahomes before it gets to me, or I end up kind of not taking Kelsey. Like I'm in a spot where I've been, I don't know, the algorithm for me right now on Underdog is not my friend. I am usually, I have been like 10 through 12, and so Kelsey's gone by then. And then I'm not going to take Mahomes that quick on the way back either. So I haven't really been getting that stack, but I think it's extremely valuable. I mean, last year we thought Kelsey was going to fall off, and I feel like, yes, he's older, but at the same time, like you just discussed, I mean, those pass catchers are just, I feel like it's still Kelsey. I feel like he's still going to be the guy. He's still going to be the number one receiver in that offense. And I think he's still worth a first round pick this year, especially if you want to just get the tight end over with, like, and you just get him and Mahomes, and then you can just play around and do whatever you want, and then grab McKinnon in the 11th. I mean, love it.
And you get that Mayfield Otten stack late, and you don't even have to think about quarterback and tight end.
Right.
So.
Quarterback or tight end are both done, and you can just pound running back, wide receiver forever, and then grab Mayfield, Otten, and you're good to go.
That's fun. Here's a Philly stack. AJ Brown in the first, Jalen Hurts in the second, Devontae Smith in the third. Any combination there you're interested in at those costs?
Yeah, I have no problem with that either. I don't know about all three. I don't know. I feel like it might be a little difficult because I feel like Hurts, well, it depends on where you are in the draft. I don't hate that. I do think Goddard is a little rich for me in the 6th. I'm not sure if there's enough targets to go around there now. You've got DeAndre Swift, you've got Rashad Penny, you got Gainwell. I just don't know. I don't know if Goddard is as valuable as he's been in past years, and he's even more expensive than he's been in past years. So I'm kind of skipping him there in the 6th. As you know, I'm either a pay all the way up or pay all the way down for tight end. So I will skip that, but I'm not opposed to AJ Brown, Hurts, and then some Quez Watkins in the 18th to round that out.
In a contract year, Quez Watkins in a contract year.
Oh yeah, there you go. Brandon has a really good article that came out today about guys in a contract year, so you should check that out as well. But I don't know about DeAndre Swift. I mean, what are you thinking? He's a 6th rounder too.
Yeah, I'm taking a lot of Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of that in my Philly stack. I'm trying to have one roster with Brown, Hurts, Smith, and I haven't been able to do it. And it's Brown that I can't get because it's either like his current ADP is 9. He hasn't made it to 9 in any of the ones I've actually been in. So when I'm picking in the front of the, I haven't really gotten middle picks a lot. I've picked like 3rd and 10th a lot. So so I either don't want to take him at 3 or I can't catch him, but I can catch Hurts if I go early and I can catch Smith if he falls. But I haven't been able to complete the trifecta. But I kind of like that Philly offense, and then I always grab either Penny or Gainwell later. I
don't know how you don't. I mean, Penny's a 10th rounder, Gaineswell's a 16th, so they're both certainly affordable for the situation. I mean, we know Penny is not the most durable, but neither is Swift. So the answer may be Gainwell or Boston Scott.
Might be, Gainwell or Boston Scott. That might be, So let's go Buffalo. Buffalo is one I don't have any stacks of Buffalo as far as the elite players. I have some low end stacks. I have like Josh Allen and Damian Harris and Dawson Knox and stuff like that, but I don't have any of Diggs Allen. Is that a stack that you're going to pay for? That's a first and a late second, early third is kind of where Josh Allen's going. So you probably have to take him at the turn, when it comes back in the second.
Right now his ADP is 21, so you're getting him in the second. I've done it. I like Diggs Allen, and then I'll wait and take James Cook later, and Dalton Kincaid as well in the 10th. I don't hate that. I can't buy into Gabe Davis this year in the 7th. It's just not. I can't make myself hit that button, and I may regret it. But
I'm with you.
I don't know. I just can't do it. But yeah, I mean, and the other day I was so frustrated because I was in I don't know if it was a puppy or a best ball. I took Diggs and I just completely spaced Allen on the way back. Like I was, and like as soon as I clicked on whoever I picked, like it was like Amon-Ra St. Brown or something, I was like, what am I doing? And like the guy right after me took Allen. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just met. And he was there, and I just completely spaced it. But anyway, yes, I will totally do that if it's there. I love me some James Cook, so I will take him in the 8th as well. And then I'll take Kincaid for now. He's in the 10th. If he gets much richer, I probably won't. But I have no problem with those guys at all.
I like Cook at value. I think where he's being drafted makes sense. He's got a ton of upside. I really like that. Hi, Fantasy Football Garage. Hi, Mr. Scampers. Thanks for joining us. Fantasy Football Garage says they want to take Gabe when they miss out on Diggs. That makes perfect sense. I completely understand that.
But
a guy I'm stacking in Buffalo is in the last round. I grabbed Trent Sherfield, who I think will be the wide receiver 4 and push for wide receiver 3.
There you go. We just talked wide receiver 4.
Yeah, I think we're going to get like 4 spike weeks from him. Kind of like we were talking Mac Hollins did better than this, but we were talking Mac Hollins this time of year last year.
We
Trent
did,
Sherfield's
and we were right on Mac Hollins.
So we drafted. I had a lot of Mac Hollins.
I don't know how I'm not doing a lot of Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, he just seems to not be on my radar when it's time to take him. Maybe he'll do well. Deontay Hardy's also kind of interesting because, but that guy just can't stay on the field like the last few years. So, I just
feel like Kincaid might take some of that Shakir work, this year that people, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's probably worth a dart here and there though. If you're stacking the Bills, I kind of prefer. I think Kincaid might take some of that slot stuff away from Shakir, but Isaiah McKenzie's gone, so, and I think Cole Beasley is gone, right?
Cole Beasley, I believe, is gone for now. You never really bank on Cole Beasley being gone, but
freaking cockroach, that guy.
You get the Beasles, you know what I mean? If you don't, let's go Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, both going in the 3rd round right now. So if you want this stack, you have to reach on one of them in the 2nd, which I'm not really completely opposed to doing with Mark Andrews, but are you stacking those 2 at all?
The only way you can really get that stack, like you said, either if you reach, or you can either reach on the 2-3 turn, or you somehow hope that they both fall to the 3-4 turn, but they're back to back. I mean, Lamar is 31 and Andrews is 32. So unless you're on a turn, like you're not getting both of them.
I haven't seen either fall to the 4th.
No, I haven't either, but probably before Lamar signed, you probably, could have gotten both those guys.
Oh yeah.
But now I think it's way too difficult. And I just, I don't know if we're supposed to be talking about the rest of Baltimore now or if we're waiting. I think
we can do that.
I have a hard time, and it's crazy because as a UGA fan and as someone that I should be excited about Todd Monken, and I should be excited about this offense, and I should be excited about the pass catchers, and I can't make myself get excited about Bateman and Beckham and Zay Flowers. Like I want to, but I can't. Maybe I will as the summer goes on. Maybe the training camp hype will get me in, but for now, I'm kind of just not. Unless I invest in either Lamar or Andrews, if for some reason I can get both, but if not, I'm kind of just, I don't know, I'm staying away, and it's probably a bad decision on my part. I should buy in, but I can't seem to do it.
Yeah, I'm stacking Gus Edwards and Devin Duvernay. That's my Baltimore stack.
Well, that's yeah, and I have some J.K. Dobbins here and there. Because he's still relatively inexpensive.
He's getting a little rich for me.
For a technical RB1, he's still, yeah.
I'm just looking at that receiver room. Zay Flowers is a rookie. I love Zay Flowers, but he's a rookie. Rashad Bateman, injury prone. Odell Beckham coming off some serious injuries. Devin Duvernay and Nelson Aguilar might get a lot of run. So
Nelson Aguilar, I can't. I can't
draft him. I'm just saying. Saying those are the guys. Those are the guys that are on the back end of that roster. So very, very interesting to be in Baltimore. Okay, let's talk. I want to talk about the Justin Fields and DJ Moore stack in Chicago. The rest of Chicago is very cheap and very stackable, and I'm a big fan. And we'll get to their running backs at some point. But Justin Fields and DJ Moore, you're looking at like 3rd and 4th round if you want to stack that. Is that value to you? Is that worth stacking?
No, I mean, not to me. I feel like opportunity cost. I feel like there's other people there that I'm going to end up taking. I don't have a lot of Fields. I just feel like he's going a little early for me.
He's a little high for me too.
So I kind of let other people take him, and I don't hate DJ Moore. I mean, I feel like his price is okay. But I don't know that I'm going to stack them both because I feel like if you invest there, then you're kind of like, okay, so then what? I'm going to take Cole Kmet later, which I don't want to do. So yeah, I don't think it's not happening for me.
How do you feel about Darnell Mooney late now that he's cheap? Like last year, obviously you paid up for him and he didn't work out. Not you, the proverbial you.
No, I did though.
So did I. But,
yeah, I mean, we all did. I think he's fine. I think he's probably a post type sleeper. Like I feel like he's a guy that we're all like, screw it. He did not pan out last year, and like you said, we paid a decent price for him. So he's one of those guys that we're all like, nope, not doing it. And then he's probably going to be all right. I mean, listen, if Justin Fields takes that step forward that everyone's hoping he really does in the passing department, then he should be fine. But last year was, with between A-Rod or not. God, I'm still thinking 2 years ago with Allen Robinson. Yeah. Anyway.
It's just every year we're just going to get disappointed by a Bears receiver. I guess that's the way it goes, which makes me nervous about DJ Moore now. But
well, I mean, we're used to being disappointed by DJ Moore, so it's
True.
Just he's on a different team. It's kind of the same feel, same vibe, just different team.
Yeah, 4th round. That's a little tough. Okay, let's go Chargers. Another expensive stack. Austin Eckler in the 1st. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen are both like 4th rounders, and then Justin Herbert is lasting to the 5th or late 4th. Stacking ability there out of those 4 players.
So what I've been doing is just I like Eckler. I will take Eckler. A lot of people are letting him slip just based on kind of the trade rumors and all the stuff in the beginning, but you got to like Eckler, right? What I've been doing is taking him, and then I kind of skip the Mike Williams, Keenan Allen section and go straight to Herbert in the 5th, Quentin Johnston in the 8th, and some Everett in the 14th.
I like it.
Yeah, Mike Williams and Allen, I feel like I'm going to pick the wrong one, so I'm just not going to pick either. And I'm just going to go straight to Quentin Johnston and straight to Everett, which, Everett is gross. Nobody wants him, but he's in the 14th round, and he's the guy. I mean, he's the tight end there, even though there were rumors that they were going to move on from him. They didn't. So, and Herbert in the 5th it's a little pricey, but I still am willing to do it, especially if I get Eckler in the 1st, and then I can kind of, let someone else take, like I said, Williams and Allen, grab Herbert, grab Johnston, grab Everett, and have that 4-part stack, which is, pretty easy to do. And then they're playing Denver in week 17, which, all those pieces are extremely cheap. So you can correlate there very easily.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I know that's kind of boring for a podcast, but the receivers, I don't really want to guess wrong. This will be one of the first years that I probably don't have a Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert stack. I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I have some from earlier this offseason, but I've stopped because I'm too scared to make the wrong call there. And listen, they both may go down.
Yeah.
And we may end up with, Johnston and Joshua Palmer and Guyton as our,
Very possible. Guyton's still there. He came back on a 1-year prove-it deal, so we'll see what happens with him. Joshua Kelly or Isaiah Spiller there in the late if you're taking a jab at one of those guys.
Right.
Yeah. Which one do you prefer?
Oh, you're asking me which one? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess if I had to pick, I'd go Kelly, but I don't even know why, so.
Okay. Well, I'm on Team Spiller.
Okay, so perfect. That's why.
So that's what we'll do. We'll split it. That's why.
Okay. That works for me.
All right. So then I want to talk just a little bit about the Colts. That was the next team that you kind of have to pay up for a little bit. Jonathan Taylor is going, fringe first, second round. But then you look at Michael Pittman and Anthony Richardson, where you're looking at, the 5th round or the 9th round or 8th round. And so I'm curious. I know how you feel about Anthony Richardson in general, but if you grab Taylor and or Pittman, does Richardson become more interesting to you at that point?
He does. And let me tell you, I've got a little story about the Colts that happened to me over the weekend. I was very upset. So how I feel about Richardson. A little rich for me, guy that's never played, guy that's not even guaranteed to start from the beginning. We don't know what's going to happen. He's an 8th rounder, pretty rich. Mm-hmm. Did a draft this weekend. I think it was a puppy. I was like, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. And I am going to take Richardson, but I had already missed out on. I didn't take Pitt or Pittman or Taylor, so I was like, all right, I'm going to go Richardson now, and I'm going to start stacking. The jack wagon next to me took Pierce and Downs from me. I'm like,
oh no,
yeah. I'm like,
back to back.
Yeah, no, but I mean, no.
Close though.
So
Yeah.
missed Pierce, was frustrated. I was like, fine, I'll get Downs and I'll get Jelani Woods and I'll be good, you know? And then he takes Downs. I'm like, what do you like? And it's like, it wasn't even my main, you know what I mean? Like, I already had a ton of other players. So, like, I can't imagine that he was purposely looking at my roster going, I'm going to screw this person over and take Pearson Downs from her Richardson, you know? But he did it anyway. And I'm like, what? Like, they're not like that. I just found it very strange that this person took both of them from me. So I was really frustrated.
Did they at least take Gardner Minshew?
I don't know. I was so annoyed with them.
Yeah.
That they were right next to me. I was like, really? Like, no one's clamoring for Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. I mean, really? Like, to the point that this guy took both of them without Richardson, or he didn't have Taylor. He didn't have Pittman, you know? Like, he was just, I guess he was going for that, you know, secondary mini stack late.
Yeah.
But, so I got Jelani Woods. So that was a Richardson Jelani Woods stack is what I ended up with.
That'll work.
Yeah,
I like a little Jelani Woods.
I mean,
like
me
that.
too, but it was not ideal. But to your actual question, yeah, I mean, I would do it. I haven't really taken a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I probably should start. I just kind of, when I'm on that turn there, I just kind of end up going like Adams and Lamb or something else. And I don't really decide to go with Taylor, but I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, other than the fact that if Richardson is not who everyone thinks he is, and he doesn't have a great training camp for some reason, and Minshew ends up being the starter, then you're kind of screwing yourself with an 8-round pick that's not going to play for a bit. But I don't hate all the other pieces. Like I said, Pierce is a 12th rounder, Downs is a 14th, and then you can get Woods in the 18th. So even if you miss out on, you know, Taylor or Pittman, you can still attempt that later stack like I did, which didn't happen, but you can still most of the time you're probably going to get it. I mean, like I said, I don't think people are dying for either of those guys. I just happen to have someone next to me that for some reason did that.
I'm guessing that person's team name was Blue Horseshoe or something like that. That's what I would guess.
Yeah, maybe they were Colts fans. I don't know, but I was just like, you've got to be kidding. Like when he first took Pierce, I was like, all right. And then Downs, like the next round, I'm like I didn't think I had to reach for either of those to complete the stack, but somehow I did.
Fantasy Football Garage likes Rashee Rice over Kadarius Toney at value for the Kansas City stack. I like that too. I worry a little bit. I don't know how much rookies are going to make an impact. I think Toney's going to have a couple good games, but Toney can't stay on the field, and who knows what's going to happen in Kansas City. So I like the talent of Rashee Rice. There's some draft capital there, and certainly wide open there. I don't have a problem with that, Fantasy Football Garage. Are you buying the Jacksonville stack? So here you don't have to invest quite as high, but you still need a third rounder to get Etienne, a third rounder to get Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Trevor Lawrence a couple rounds after that. Are you stacking the Jaguars?
Yes and no. You can't really like Etienne and Ridley are both third rounders, so you can't really get both those guys, but you can get Kirk in the 5th, like you said, Trevor in the 6th, Ingram in the 8th, you know. I'm not opposed to Zay Jones, you know, in the 11th. Or, you know, Tank Bigsby in the 14th is there as well. And he's most likely the backup there. So if you can't get the primary pieces, those other pieces are still there. And you know, the Jags, I like the Jags. They're fun. They're fun to root for. They're fun to stack. And they play the Panthers. So that could be an interesting game.
That could be a big offensive game. Like really could be. We do not know what this Panthers offense is
no
going
clue.
to look like.
I mean, we have no idea. No.
I called out a few natural stacks that I really like. I just want to say them, and if you've got any that you like, I want to hear yours too, or if you have comments on them. So this is just where I think ADP works out great, and I just love stacking. So I love Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. You talked about that at the top of the show.
Same.
It's just perfect. I could get Goff late. I think it's going to be prolific. I love St. Brown in the 2nd round. Works out perfect. And then Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones is a really nice stack for me. I like that. I think the Giants offense is going to continue to grow. Jones is cheap. Barkley is, I think, priced correctly. So
I agree. The only thing, I mean, it's interesting with that stack. I have trouble with I'm okay with Waller in the 7th. I mean, if you're going to do it right, but I definitely have trouble with the wide receiver room there. Like there's just, and we all do. I mean, there's so many bodies in there, and I'm worried about picking correctly. I mean, they're all fairly inexpensive. You know, all of the Giants pass catchers are inexpensive, but I find myself kind of skipping that and going, like you said, Saquon, Jones, and Waller, and just calling it a day there.
Yeah, I do kind of like I have a couple puppies like this where I've
Mhm.
stacked Giants and Rams for the Week 17 correlation. It's a natural first and second round for me to take Cooper Kupp and then Saquon Barkley when I'm
Yeah,
picking at the
no,
back
that yeah.
end. And I just take a couple of those Giants. So in one build, I got Isaiah Hodgins and Wan'Dale
Yeah.
Robinson. Another one, I got Darius Slayton. like
Yeah.
I take a couple of them. So
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, like I said, they're all relatively inexpensive. So you can kind of, if you're doing, several drafts, you can mix it up and throw in some rookie love and Jalen Hyatt. They're all there for the taking. It's just a matter of which one hits. And I mean, listen, Daniel Jones, like that offense is going to be fine. It's just a matter of picking the right one.
and it's kind of a natural hero running back build too, if you go
Yeah.
with the Giants, because Barkley's just kind of a good hero and
Mhm.
I tend to draft that way. I started doing that like 2 years ago, and it just seems to be the way I like to draft.
Yeah, I do too. It depends, it depends where I am in the draft, of course, and who you end up with. Like I said, if I'm kind of on the back end turn, I sometimes will end up kind of going zero RB ish, depending on who's there. Like if Eckler happens to fall there, I will grab him and then go hero RB. But if like Saquon and Eckler are gone, then I will probably go zero RB.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Picking late too. It's hard to pass up Adams and Lamb. Like it's really hard to pass
Yeah,
that.
I mean, and it's like I don't yeah, I mean, then sometimes, depends on who's there or not. But it's like I'm not gonna reach for Chubb there, so I'm just gonna take, running or wide receivers.
And Dallas is an easier stack because Dak is cheap this year, so he used to
He's
be a lot
very
more
cheap.
expensive. That's
Yes.
another one that's an easy stack for
Mhm.
me. Pollard's a little expensive for me, but you can get those ancillary pieces.
Yeah, Pollard is pricey and he's not getting any cheaper
hmm
at all. But then again, it's like once you get past there, then everyone else, Gallup is really cheap and
Cooks.
Brandon Cooks is really cheap and whoever I'm drawing a blank. Is it Schoonmaker? The rookie tight
Schumacher's
end?
their rookie, and then they've still got is it Jake
Jake
Ferguson? They've still
Ferguson.
got
Yeah.
running around there, so
Mhm.
we'll see what happens at the tight end position there. So who knows? And and if you really want to get just get crazy about it, there's a little Deuce back there for you.
Yeah. True.
Who
True.
probably won't play it down this year, but I'm rooting for the kid anyway. So
Listen, you never know with Jerry, right? You never know what's going to happen there. He may all of
um
a sudden be the featured back.
do you love the Dolphin stacks as much as I do? I kind of like everyone where they're going, and it's fun to piece together a few of those running backs and grab
I
Tua.
do. Tua, I'm scared. I'm scared of Tua. Like and listen, I've taken him plenty and it's easy
hmm
to stack because he is pretty cheap because other people are scared as well. He's one hit away from not playing, and I know he's like fully healed now and he's fine, but after what we saw last year, it's a little scary to invest in him, but it's easy to do. You can take Hill and you can take Waddle and you can take him and you can take all the running backs. So I do feel like, yeah, I mean, I like them and I take them.
And Baltimore Week 17 correlation is an
Mhm.
interesting stack to load up on,
That
just
is kind of
defensively.
interesting, and that is in
It's
Baltimore
in
actually.
Baltimore, yeah.
So
So weather could be in play there, but
yes,
just looking at what happened the last time those two teams met up. So
no, totally.
and then I just want to talk about Olave and Carr, Derek Carr and Chris Olave. That's the last one that I think is just like a natural stack. Olave, I don't mind paying up for a little bit. You can get Derek Carr pretty late.
Yeah,
That's a nice stack that I like.
I like it too, and I love me some Juwan Johnson, so
Yep.
throw that in there all day for me. I haven't, it's interesting. Taysom Hill, I should probably draft him, and I just don't. But he's the perfect best ball guy
Mhm.
because he's got those random spike weeks where he'll get 3 touchdowns off gadget plays in 1 week for some weird reason, and then he doesn't do anything else for the rest of the time. And I knew that was coming, Sal. But I just haven't really. I've been taking a lot of Juwan Johnson, and now they have Foster Moreau, which I don't
Mhm.
know. Supposedly he is ready to go for this season. So that might throw a wrench in my Juwan Johnson love because I have a lot of it. But
So Taysom Hill is really cheap. Fantasy Football Garage likes Taysom over Juwan Johnson.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. My thing is, I wonder if with Derek Carr there, I wonder if he's going to get the same amount of gadget plays. But if you had to pay up for him, I'd probably be out on Hill because he's so cheap. He's going to be on a lot of my rosters.
No, he's totally cheap, and I just have been taking Juwan instead, but I need to flip that for a little bit and balance out my portfolio.
Yeah, if you've got a 3 tight end build, so.
Right.
Which
I usually do because I usually don't pay for tight end.
I'm the same way. It ends up being
usually like 3 between rounds, like 13 and 16. I'll just
Oh, absolutely. Any natural stacks before I get into some of the value teams? Like any natural stacks that you just happen to love?
No, I think you covered them all. I mean, the Lamb, we talked about. Yeah, I think you've covered pretty much all the good ones.
I didn't talk Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. That seems pretty natural to me too, but it's just I rarely get Jefferson, so.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be in the 1-1. Like he does. Nobody else, no one goes there other than him. So you have to be in the 1-1, and you have to kind of get him. And if you do, I don't. There's a lot there. You can add Addison, Hawkinson. I mean, of course, but those guys are expensive. Hawkinson and Jefferson are both expensive, but Kirk is not. So you can easily do that if. But like you said, you have to be in the 1-1 or you're not getting Jefferson. Unless you have some, random that takes like McCaffrey first or Chase first. You get like a Bengals fan or something ahead of you. But for the most part, you have to be in the 1-1.
Yeah, I think he's gone 1.01 on everyone I've been in. And it sounds like he's going to be doing that for redraft too, not just best ball, which is interesting. I can't remember the last time there was a consensus receiver at number 1 overall. Maybe never. I know Antonio Brown came close one year.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, it's been McCaffrey for a while, and then it was Taylor, in between when McCaffrey got hurt. But I can't even remember before that. My mind is not.
Todd Gurley was before that, right? Todd Gurley was a 1.01. Yeah, I just can't remember the consensus being a receiver. It's just been a long time, but
it's been a while. But he's definitely it's definitely Jefferson across the board.
All kinds of fun stuff. Any value? So value teams, there's certain teams I can't stop stacking because they're so cheap, and I just kind of look forward to it. Any teams that kind of stand out to you, teams that you just can't stop stacking?
As far as you mean, like value stacks, or whatever. I like the Steelers. I can't. I find myself taking a lot of Steelers. They're cheap. I mean, first of all, Najee is cheap. Based on his situation. I mean, he's not cheap in the grand scheme of things. He's a 4th rounder, but still, like, for his potential workload, for an improved offensive line, like, I think, for him being healthy this year, I think Najee's probably a steal in the 4th round. And then you've got Pickens in the 6th. You've got Deontay Johnson in the 7th, Freiermuth in the 10th. And then, I love me some Darnell Washington in the 18th. I have no problem throwing a stab at him in case Freiermuth unfortunately, has another concussion or something. But so the Steelers I like. I kind of like the Commanders. I'm gonna whisper that really slow. Like,
I like it.
I mean, I don't know if I can pay for Terry. He is cheaper than he has been. But I'll take some Dotson in the 7th, some Gibson in the 11th. There's hopefully the rumors, right, of him having a more pass catching role with Bieniemy there. Hopefully that comes true, right? So we get Gibson, and he's super cheap in the 11th, and Dotson. And then, I can't make myself draft Logan Thomas though. Again, I can't do it. I wish they had a better tight option for me to slide into those cheap stacks. But, I don't. Yeah, I can't say that I love the Commanders as an organization, but I will say that they're so cheap and easy to stack.
I've got some Dotson, Gibson, Howell. I've got some of that. Now you pick Brissett, right?
I've been taking Brissett a lot. Yeah. I need to kind of flip because I know at least at the moment they're saying that Howell is the guy. So I feel like I should probably add some Howell into the mix of my teams. But I do have plenty of Brissett from earlier.
Howell ran in 2 touchdowns against Dallas. That's just if he's going to do stuff like that, as in those late builds anyway. I'm interested in Washington. I kind of like that, and I think Terry rebounds a little bit. I've been stacking the Panthers a lot because they're such an unknown that it's driven the cost down so much, and so we have guys like Miles Sanders, who's an RB1 that you can
Yeah,
get in
he's a
the
fifth rounder.
sixth, yeah,
Mhm.
fifth rounder. That's
Fifth.
right. So, it's great. And then all those receiving pass catchers, they're all, with ADPs beyond 120.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan Mingo, the rookie, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark. So I've been grabbing a few of those guys, and I don't have a problem taking Bryce Young. I
Hayden
think he'll
Hurst.
take over at some point. So
Yeah, you got Hayden Hurst in the 17th.
Mhm.
And you can always get some Andy Dalton in the 18th too for
if you
the
want, yeah,
for the beginning, because he may start, and he
Mhm.
may he may have the reins for a little bit,
Mhm.
depending on how Young does at camp. But we may see Andy Dalton for the first 4 or 5 games,
Very possible.
and if you grab him in the last round and he has a couple good weeks, that could set you apart.
Which I will say about that, I agree with you. I think it's worth taking some stabs at Andy
Mhm.
Dalton. I also think it's nice to buy the dip on Bryce Young because at pick 169, this reminds me of when Justin Herbert fell because Tyrod Taylor was there. Sure, Tyrod Taylor did start, but I think I think we may have let Herbert fall a little further than
Yeah.
we should have, thinking, oh, he's not going to start right away. And I'm kind of making the same mistake with Anthony Richardson, except the difference is Richardson is expensive.
Right.
Bryce Young is really cheap, and
No,
he's
he is. He's a 15th rounder right now.
and he's super mobile. And
Mhm.
so I feel like buying a dip on Young and having some exposure to both Young and Dalton on different lineups and different builds is a good idea. Because if we knew Young was going to be the day one starter, I guarantee his ADP would fly up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, if you have to wait 4 weeks for your quarterback 2 to suddenly become a dual threat fantasy gem, I'm kind of a fan. They're so cheap.
I mean, in best ball, absolutely. I mean, in redraft, I'm not touching him, with anything, because he'll be there on the waiver wire if that comes to fruition. But in best ball, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely best ball talk at the moment.
No, of course. Another one that we can talk about real quick is the Packers. I mean, we don't. Jordan Love is kind of a mystery, right? And Christian Watson is expensive. I mean, he's a 4th rounder.
Yep.
But after that, everything's pretty cheap. I mean, even Aaron Jones has fallen all the way to the 5th round.
Yeah.
People don't seem to want to touch him. And Dylan is a 9th rounder, which, Mr. Scampers, we'll talk about that in a second. Your question. But yeah, you got Romeo Dobbs as a 12th, Love is a 13th, rookie Jalen Reed's a 14th. And then you got both rookie tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Crafter, 18th rounders. Like, throw a thing with that and Love. They're super easy to do. And they play Minnesota in week 17. So that's also a stack that you can kind of, if you get Jefferson, super easy to grab some of those late Packer pass catchers.
Yeah, I like that. I do a lot of that week 17 Green Bay, Minnesota. Even if I don't get Jefferson, I'll try to grab I'll try to grab Madison and Hawkinson and Cousins or something like that, and then I'll pair them up with some Packers. I enjoy that. I like Jaden Reed. He might stink. He might be nothing, but he also profiles as like a solid deep threat Z receiver that can get those splash plays. So I really like Jaden Reed.
I mean, Jordan Love may stink, and then all of this is for naught. Yep. So we don't know.
Then it's just Aaron Jones. That's it.
Yeah. Then it's just Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon's quads, and that's all we get.
So Mr. Scampers brought up Stetson Bennett. Would you like to go on your Stetson Bennett discussion?
It's interesting. So I am in I'm in a draft right now. It was a rookie draft, but it's not dynasty, because I don't do dynasty. But it was just a rookie eliminator draft. It was like 10 teams, 6 picks. It was crazy. So I actually took Stetson Bennett. Like, in a normal league, I don't think I'm going to. I don't know though, because it got me thinking once I drafted him. It's like, when you think about it, like, Stetson Bennett is kind of, one, back tweak away from possibly playing. I mean, Matthew Stafford is not super healthy, and he's not super, like, I don't know. He doesn't seem very energized and into playing football anymore. I could be wrong.
And he's got Cooper Kupp. I mean, it's not, it's not like there's nothing there.
After watching the guy at, in college, and I was not a fan, right, until he won my team 2 national championships in a row. But I still doubted him the whole time, just like everybody else. But at the same time, like, I watched him perform when he needed to perform. Like, the guy can play football. I know he's freaking 25 or whatever, and I know he didn't graduate from college and all the other jokes that everyone has, but the guy can play football. So At first I laughed about it, but when you think about it, like Matthew Stafford is not the most durable dude in recent years, and he's the guy right behind him. So I'm not opposed to throwing a couple of darts there. I don't have any yet in on Underdog. I do have the one that I took this weekend, but it was an MFL league. But I think I might sprinkle in a little Bennett.
Yeah, only 3 quarterback builds, right?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
yes. He's not a quarterback 2,
Mhm.
and he's not obviously a quarterback 1, but he would be an 18th round, just random. If I happen to have Cup, or I took Higbee, God forbid, you know, but if I ended up in that, and it's interesting. By the way, I have an article that dropped this morning on 444, the ADP risers and fallers in the last 2 weeks, and for some reason, the Rams are like all of a sudden rising in ADP, like 3 out of. So Matthew Stafford was the number 1 rising quarterback in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it was only like 6 spots, but still he rose. Van Jefferson rose like a round and a half in the last.
Makes sense, honestly.
Does it though? Like,
Yeah.
why?
Allen Robinson's gone. They didn't draft a receiver high,
I mean, I get that, but in the last 2 weeks, like nothing's really. I don't know. Well, I did find, because of course I had to do research to figure out why, and
Sure.
Van Jefferson did a press conference last week where he's talking about how excited he is to have Stafford back. And I guess they both were not healthy at the same time last year ever. So
Sure.
now they both are. So that, and then Higbee was the highest rising tight end. So it's like for some reason, the last 2 weeks, the Rams are on the rise. I don't know why. But
Maybe people just forgot about the Rams, and they're just oh yeah, that's a team.
Well, they were kind of bad last year, so yeah, people forgot. I forgot. I didn't, other than Cooper Kupp, there wasn't a lot of pieces that were fantasy relevant last year. I mean, Higbee was tight end. I don't remember. He was actually pretty good. Oh, they have a Hard Knocks type show. Maybe that's why.
That'll do it.
I did not know that. Well, that would be why they're all on the rise. Maybe I should have put that in my article.
Thank you, Mr. Scampers. That makes sense.
Scampers is always good for that.
Always good stuff.
I should have known that, and I didn't. So there you go. Oh, it was released in the last 2 to 3 weeks. No clue. You?
No. Makes sense. I didn't know. I don't watch that stuff, so I don't watch it because it's not enough football for me.
It's just more like random sideline drama.
Yeah, there's too much of the random stuff, but I should probably watch more of it too.
Well, that would be probably what caused their ADP spike, because I was like, this is kind of strange that 3 positional, there were no running backs, of course, because whatever, but 3 out of the 4 positions that I was writing about were all Rams people. Mm-hmm. Like, that's weird, but now it all makes sense.
Makes sense. I want to talk about one more team. There's several teams here that we didn't get to, which is okay, but there's one more team that I want to talk about. This is my accidental stack. It's the one I never plan on stacking. I just always end up with 3 or 4 guys, and that's the Seahawks, because they're all cheap, and Geno Smith is cheap, and so he ends up being a really good QB2 on all my rosters. And so I always end up with like Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett and Geno, or DK Metcalf, Geno, and Noah Fant, or something like that. And are you stacking Seahawks like I am?
Well, yes, but you didn't name the 2 that I keep taking, and that's Zach Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I bet those are the 2 that I keep getting. But yeah, I end up taking. I don't have a lot of Lockett, I think, just because I've had so much over the years. But and I take some JSN, even though he's getting pretty pricey as well.
Yep. He's going ahead of Lockett, but they're still affordable. I have both. I have both of them. So
I'm a little bit worried that Geno will not be the Geno we saw last year, when he will be the Geno from the 10 years before that. But I am taking him because he is still, like you said, he is still undervalued. If he's the same quarterback that played last year, if it's the same level, same caliber situation, then he is undervalued at the moment. He's always my QB2. I don't think I've taken him as my QB1 yet, but I've been paying up a little bit more for quarterback this year. Yeah, and I think that is the trend this year in both best ball and redraft. I think a lot of people are kind of straying away from the late round quarterback vibe and going more towards like, hey, let's just get a solid guy here, because when you're scrounging, in the middle of the barrel, it doesn't work. It's been tough. It's been tough when you go up against someone with Mahomes or Allen or Hurts. Yeah. It's tough. Any teams you really wanted to mention before we go? No, I think we've kind of gone over. I mean, not every team in the league. I don't know that we hit all 32, but we did pretty well, I think. We did good. Yeah. Shout out to the Bucs tight end and the Chicago Bears running backs. I'm also grabbing those guys a lot. So yes, we did talk a little Baker, Kate Otten, which I have absolutely no. I'm not shy on drafting those guys.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jed. This was fun. I always enjoy this. Thank you very much to everyone who listened and everyone who joined us in the chat. Always a pleasure. Listeners, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2guysbrandon. Thanks for checking us out and have a good day.